I was sitting in my lawyer's office staring out the window at downtown Austin. The Texas sun was setting, painting the sky, orange and purple. 6 months ago, I thought I had found the right person. Her name was Amber. She was smart, charming, ambitious. I never imagined that after we broke up she would turn into the worst nightmare of my life. But there was one thing Amber did not count on. I was not the type of person who gave up easily. Sometimes the person who tries to destroy you ends up destroying themselves. Before I tell you how karma caught up with my ex, I want to know where you are watching this from. Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you have ever dealt with someone who tried to sabotage you, hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, you will want to hear how this story unfolds. Now let me take you back to where it all started. I met Amber at a networking event for tech startups in Austin 2 years ago. It was one of those evenings where everyone was dressed business casual, holding craft beers and talking about the next big thing in technology. The venue was a converted warehouse in East Austin, all exposed brick and Edison bulbs. I was there representing my company, a mid-sized software development firm where I worked as a senior developer. I had been with them for 4 years and had built a solid reputation. Amber caught my attention immediately. She was standing near the bar, laughing with a group of people. She had this energy about her that was magnetic. When our eyes met, she smiled and walked over. She worked in marketing for a large fintech company, she told me. She was confident, articulate, and had this way of making you feel like you were the most interesting person in the room. We exchanged numbers that night. Our first date was at a barbecue place on South Congress. We talked for 3 hours straight. She told me about her dreams of starting her own marketing agency someday. I shared my passion for developing technology that could make a difference in people's lives. Everything felt natural, easy. The next few months were great. We went hiking in the hill country on weekends. The trails near Pedernales Falls became our regular spot. We would pack sandwiches, spend the afternoon climbing rocks and talking about everything and nothing. On weeknights, we cooked together in my apartment. She made this amazing Thai curry. I taught her how to make my grandmother's meatloaf recipe. Amber was always complimenting me. She said I was brilliant, that I had so much potential. She loved hearing about my work projects. When I explained complex coding problems, she listened with genuine interest, even though she admitted she did not understand half of it. She would say things like, "You are going to do amazing things, Connor. I just know it." About a year into our relationship, I received an offer that changed everything. A startup in Austin reached out to me. They were developing an artificial intelligence platform for the healthcare industry. The company had just secured serious venture capital funding. They wanted me as their lead developer and were offering equity in the company. It was the opportunity of a lifetime. When I told Amber, she seemed excited at first. We went out to celebrate at our favorite Italian restaurant. She ordered champagne. We toasted to new beginnings. But over the next few weeks, I noticed a shift. The startup was in a critical phase. We were building the foundation of the platform, and I needed to put in long hours. Some nights I did not leave the office until 10 or 11. Amber started making comments. At first they were subtle. "You work so much lately," she would say. Or, "I barely see you anymore." I tried to explain that this was temporary, that once we got through this initial phase, things would calm down. But the comments became more frequent, more pointed. The argument started about 3 months after I joined the startup. One Friday night I had promised to take her to a concert. But we had a critical bug in the system that needed to be fixed before a demo with potential investors on Monday. I called her at 6 p.m. to cancel. I could hear the anger in her voice even before she spoke. "This is the 3rd time this month, Connor," she said. "Do you even care about this relationship?" "Of course I do," I replied. "But this is my career. This is important." "And I am not," her voice cracked. We went back and forth for 20 minutes. I felt torn. I understood her frustration, but I also knew this was a crucial time for the company. The conversation ended with her hanging up on me. Things deteriorated from there. Every time I worked late, we fought. Every missed dinner became evidence that I did not prioritize her. She wanted me to go on a 2-week vacation to Europe. I explained I could not take that much time off right now. She accused me of not loving her enough. After 3 months of constant tension, I realized we were not compatible anymore. Our values, our life priorities, they were too different. I decided it was time to end things. I went to her apartment on a Tuesday evening. She lived in a modern complex near Zilker Park. When I told her I thought we should break up, her face went through a series of emotions. First shock, then sadness, then anger. "You are choosing your job over me," she said, her voice rising. "I am choosing myself," I replied. "We want different things, Amber. That does not make either of us wrong. We are just not right for each other." She started crying, asking me to reconsider. She promised she would be more understanding, more supportive. But I had made up my mind. As I stood up to leave, she looked at me with eyes that were no longer sad, but cold. "You are making the biggest mistake of your life, Connor," she said. I thought it was just something people say when they are hurt. I had no idea how literal she meant it. For the first 2 weeks after the breakup, I did not hear from her. I focused on work, spent time with friends, tried to move forward. Then the text messages started. They were friendly at first. "Hey, just checking in. Hope you are doing well." Or "Saw this article about AI in healthcare and thought of you." I replied politely, but kept my responses brief. I wanted to maintain a cordial distance. I thought she was just trying to stay friends. Looking back, I see now that she was gathering information, staying connected for a reason I could not yet understand. About a month after our breakup, I started noticing something odd at work. My colleagues were acting strange around me. Some avoided eye contact. Others would stop talking when I entered a room. At first, I thought I was being paranoid. Then my boss, Marcus, called me into his office. Marcus was a straight shooter, a former engineer himself who had transitioned into management. He closed the door behind me and asked me to sit down. His expression was serious. "Connor, we received an anonymous email yesterday," he said, sliding a printed copy across his desk. "Someone is claiming you stole code from your previous employer." My stomach dropped. I grabbed the paper and read it. The email was detailed, accusing me of taking proprietary code and using it in our current project. It even had attachments, several snippets of code that allegedly proved the theft. "This is insane," I said, my voice louder than I intended. "I wrote all of our code from scratch." "You know that." Marcus nodded. "I believe you, Connor. But we have to investigate. We have investors. We have a reputation to protect. You understand." I understood, but I was furious. For the next 2 weeks, I had to prove my innocence. I pulled up every commit in our version control system. I showed the complete history of how I developed each feature, starting from the initial architecture documents. I demonstrated that my coding style, my approach to problem-solving everything, was distinctly mine and completely different from anything at my previous company. The timestamps told the story. Every line of code was written after I joined the startup during hours I was logged into our system. I had documentation, peer review comments, everything. Marcus and the technical team reviewed it all. They cleared me of any wrongdoing, but the damage was done. Some colleagues still looked at me with suspicion. I heard one of them say in the break room, "Where there is smoke, there is fire." I felt like I was constantly defending myself, explaining myself, proving myself. I could not let it go. Someone had tried to destroy my career, my reputation. I needed to know who. I asked our IT department to analyze the email header. They traced it back to a public IP address at a coffee shop in downtown Austin. That was not much to go on, but it was a start. I started thinking about who might want to hurt me. There was only one person I could think of: Amber. But would she really go that far? I needed more evidence. I remembered that she had friends at my previous company. One weekend, I drove over there and checked if the building had security cameras in the lobby. They did. I explained the situation to the building manager, someone I had a good relationship with when I worked there. He let me review footage from around the time the email was sent. There she was, Amber, walking into the building, signing in as a visitor. She was there to see someone named Jessica, who worked in the same department I used to be in. The pieces were coming together. I reached out to a former colleague, David, someone I trusted. I told him what was happening and asked if anyone from my old company had been asking questions about me. He thought for a moment, then said, "Actually, yeah. A woman called me a few weeks ago, said she was doing a reference check, asked some weird questions about your work habits, your ethics." "Did she give a name?" I asked. "She said she was from a recruiting firm, but now that I think about it, she never gave a company name." I asked him to describe her voice, her manner of speaking. It sounded like Amber. I tried calling Amber directly. She did not answer. I sent a text asking if we could talk. She left me on read. That told me everything I needed to know. She knew I was onto her and she was avoiding me. I decided not to confront her directly. Instead, I started documenting everything. I took screenshots of the strange text messages she had sent. I saved the anonymous email. I got a written statement from David about the suspicious reference check call. I created a detailed timeline of events. 2 months passed. I thought maybe things would calm down. The startup was doing well. We had successfully completed our demo and were in talks with several major hospital systems. I was starting to feel like I had weathered the storm. Then the attacks escalated. I started receiving fake negative reviews on my LinkedIn profile. They were not from real accounts, just anonymous profiles with no history, no connections. They all said similar things: that I was difficult to work with, that I had a bad attitude, that I could not be trusted. LinkedIn eventually removed them after I reported them, but not before several people in my network saw them. I got a message from a former professor asking if everything was okay. It was humiliating. Then someone posted on a local tech forum. The post was on a board where Austin developers discussed job opportunities and industry news. The anonymous user claimed to have worked with me and described me as toxic, unprofessional, and incompetent. They mentioned specific details about the startup I was working for, about the healthcare AI project. People in the Austin tech community started talking. It was a relatively small scene. Everyone knew everyone. Suddenly, I was the subject of gossip. At a meetup event, I overheard 2 developers discussing whether the rumors about me were true. The worst part was the timing. We were in the middle of raising our Series A funding round. One of the potential investors, a venture capital firm from California, brought up the online chatter during a due diligence call. They wanted to know if there were any personnel issues they should be aware of. Marcus had to address it directly with them, explaining that it was a smear campaign, that I had been cleared of all accusations. But the conversation cost us. It planted doubt. In the high-stakes world of venture capital, doubt is poison. I felt helpless. Every time I defended myself, it made me look guilty. Every time I ignored the attacks, they seemed to gain credibility. I was trapped in a nightmare, watching my reputation crumble, and I did not know how to stop it. But the worst was yet to come. 3 months after the breakup, on a Monday morning, I got a call from our HR director, Patricia. She asked me to come to her office immediately. Her tone was grave. When I walked in, Marcus was there too, along with 2 members of our board of directors. On the conference table was a laptop, and they asked me to watch a video. The video appeared to show me in a private conversation, bad-mouthing the company, the investors, and the healthcare industry in general. The voice was mine, the words were mine, but something felt wrong. I watched in horror as the video showed me apparently saying that our investors were idiots, that our product was overrated, that I was only there for the equity payout. "I never said this," I stammered. "This is not real. This has been edited." Marcus paused the video. "Connor, we want to believe you, but this is serious." This video was sent to every member of our board and to 3 of our potential investors. I felt like the room was spinning. "Please, you have to believe me. Yes, those are my words, but they are taken completely out of context. They are clips from different meetings stitched together." One of the board members, a woman named Eleanor, leaned forward. "Can you prove that?" "Give me time," I said. "Let me show you the original meeting recordings. We record all our stand-ups and strategy sessions. I can prove these clips are from different contexts." They agreed to investigate. We hired a digital forensics expert, someone who specialized in detecting manipulated media. It took him 3 days, but he confirmed what I knew. The video was a sophisticated fake audio clips taken from at least 5 different meetings over 2 months, edited together to create a false narrative. The company cleared me again, but one of our major investors, a firm that was going to lead our Series A round with $3 million, withdrew. They said they could not afford to be associated with controversy, even if the controversy was manufactured. We lost the deal. I sat in the conference room after everyone left staring at the wall. I felt crushing guilt. My personal drama was hurting the company, hurting my colleagues who had worked so hard. I seriously considered resigning to protect them. Marcus found me there an hour later. He sat down next to me and said, "This is not your fault, Connor. Someone is trying to destroy you, and we are going to figure out who." But I already knew who, and I was done being a victim. I went home that night and made a decision. I was going to fight back, but I was going to do it smart. I remembered that Amber used to talk about her personal blog, where she wrote about marketing strategies and career advice. She was proud of her online presence. I hired a private investigator who specialized in cybersecurity. His name was Frank, a former FBI agent who now ran his own firm. I gave him everything I had, all the evidence I had collected. I told him I suspected Amber but needed proof. Frank worked for 2 weeks. When he came back to me, he had a thick folder of findings. He had traced the anonymous accounts that posted negative reviews and forum comments. Using IP address patterns, email metadata, and linguistic analysis, he showed how they all connected back to Amber. She had made mistakes, small ones, but enough to create a trail. The video was trickier, but Frank found something interesting. The file had been uploaded from a computer that had previously been used to access Amber's personal email. The metadata showed editing timestamps that matched times when Amber was not at work, based on her company's login records that Frank had obtained through legal channels. But Frank found something else, something I had not expected. He discovered that Amber had done this before. 5 years ago, she had dated someone named Brian. After they broke up, Brian had filed a restraining order against her for harassment and stalking. There were police reports, court documents, everything. I contacted Brian through Facebook. He agreed to talk. We met at a coffee shop. He was hesitant at first, but when I told him what Amber had been doing to me, his expression changed. "She did the same thing to me," he said. "After we broke up, she tried to get me fired. She called my boss, made up stories about me. She created fake social media accounts to harass me and my family. It got so bad I had to move to a different city. Why did not you press charges?" I asked. I did. But she was smart about it. She used VPNs, burner phones, things that made it hard to prove in court. Eventually, I just wanted it to be over. This was my breakthrough. This established a pattern of behavior. It was not just about me. Amber had a history of this. I took everything to my lawyer, a woman named Sarah Chen, who specialized in defamation and cyber harassment cases. She reviewed all the evidence and nodded. "You have a strong case," she said. "Civil suit for defamation, intentional interference with business relationships, and emotional distress. We can also file a criminal complaint for harassment and identity fraud." "I want to do both," I said. "Are you sure?" "This will get expensive, and it will be public." "I am sure. I am not just defending myself anymore. I am making sure she cannot do this to anyone else." We filed the lawsuits on a Friday afternoon. By Monday, Amber had received the court summons. According to Sarah, she tried calling the office repeatedly, but Sarah refused to speak with her directly. Then Amber tried to contact me. She sent me dozens of text messages. They started with denial. "I do not know what you are talking about." Then they shifted to justification. "I was hurt. You broke my heart." Then to pleading. "Please, Connor, do not do this. We can work this out." I did not respond to any of them. Every message just became more evidence. During the discovery phase of the lawsuit, more evidence came to light. Amber's company, concerned about potential liability, launched their own internal investigation. They found that she had used company resources, including her work computer and email, to conduct some of her harassment activities. Her employer was furious. Not only was she engaged in unethical behavior, but she had also potentially exposed the company to legal liability. They suspended her immediately pending the outcome of their investigation. Meanwhile, the story started spreading in the Austin tech community. A local tech blogger, someone who covered startup news, reached out to me. He had heard rumors about the case and wanted to write about it. I was hesitant at first, but Sarah advised me that telling my story publicly might actually help. The article came out 2 weeks later. It was balanced and factual, but it clearly painted Amber as someone who had engaged in a calculated harassment campaign. The response from the community was overwhelming. I received dozens of messages of support. People shared their own stories of being targeted by ex-partners. The fake reviews and forum posts about me were systematically removed. LinkedIn, Reddit, and other platforms took action once they understood what had happened. My reputation started to recover. For Amber, the consequences were devastating. Her company completed their investigation and terminated her employment for gross misconduct and violation of company policy. She tried to find another job in marketing, but in the tight-knit Austin business community, word had spread. No one wanted to hire someone with her history. She was forced to leave Austin entirely. According to mutual acquaintances, she moved back to her hometown somewhere in the Midwest to start over. The civil case moved forward. Rather than go to trial, Amber agreed to a settlement. She admitted to the harassment in writing, issued a formal apology, and agreed to pay damages to cover my legal fees and a portion of the financial harm her actions had caused. A restraining order was issued prohibiting her from contacting me for 5 years. That brings me back to where I started, sitting in Sarah's office, signing the final settlement papers. The Texas sun was setting outside, and for the first time in months I felt like I could breathe. The weight that had been pressing on my chest was finally lifting. I looked at the signature page, my name, next to Amber's, officially ending this chapter. Sarah handed me a copy of the restraining order and the settlement agreement. "You did good, Connor," she said. "Not everyone has the strength to fight back the way you did." I thanked her and left the office. As I walked to my car, I thought about everything that had happened. I did not feel triumphant. I did not feel like I had won. Mostly I felt tired and a little sad. Amber had destroyed herself. Her anger, her inability to let go had cost her everything. Her job, her reputation, her life in a city she loved. And for what? But there was a silver lining. The startup, despite all the chaos, had survived and thrived. After the truth came out, several investors who valued integrity and resilience reached out. They had seen how the company and I handled the crisis with professionalism and transparency. We closed our Series A round 2 months later, actually raising more than we had originally planned. The company promoted me to Chief Technology Officer. It was recognition not just of my technical skills, but of how I had handled adversity. Marcus told me that my character under pressure had impressed the board more than any code I had ever written. On a personal level, I spent the following months healing. I started seeing a therapist to work through the stress and trauma of what I had experienced. Therapy helped me understand that what Amber did was not my fault, that I could not have prevented it, that some people carry pain in ways that make them hurt others. I took time for myself. I went on a solo trip to Colorado, spent a week hiking in Rocky Mountain National Park. I reconnected with old friends, people I had neglected during the relationship and the subsequent battle. I picked up guitar, something I had always wanted to learn but never had time for. Every Sunday I spent an hour practicing, fumbling through chords, slowly getting better. I was not ready to date anyone new. I wanted to make sure I was fully healed before opening my heart again. I learned to recognize red flags earlier. I learned about healthy boundaries. I learned that sometimes love is not enough if values do not align. Looking back, I realized I had learned several important lessons. The first was about the power of patience and strategic thinking. When Amber first started her attacks, my instinct was to react emotionally, to confront her, to fight fire with fire. But I did not. I documented everything, worked within the system, and let justice take its course. That discipline made all the difference. The second lesson was about reputation. I learned that your reputation is not built just on your successes but on how you handle adversity. The way I dealt with the crisis, maintaining my professionalism, being transparent with my company, fighting back legally, rather than stooping to her level, that actually strengthened my reputation in the long run. People in the Austin tech scene knew me now not just as a good developer, but as someone with integrity and resilience. The third lesson was about surrounding yourself with the right people. My team at the startup, Marcus, my colleagues, they stood by me. They believed in me when others doubted. Sarah fought for me. Frank investigated for me. My friends supported me. That network of trust and support made everything bearable. Without them, I do not know if I would have made it through. I also learned about the importance of boundaries and recognizing warning signs. When I look back at my relationship with Amber, there were red flags I had ignored. The way she needed constant validation. The way she reacted disproportionately when things did not go her way. The subtle, controlling behaviors I had brushed off. In future relationships, I would not ignore those signs again. Perhaps most importantly, I learned about forgiveness, not for the other person, but for yourself. I do not hate Amber anymore. I do not spend my nights angry or bitter. I actually feel sorry for her. Someone who is willing to destroy another person simply because they did not get their way is someone in deep pain. Hurt people, as they say. I hope she eventually gets the help she needs. My therapist once asked me, "What do you want Amber to understand if she could hear you now?" I thought about it for a long time. Finally, I said I would want her to understand that her actions did not break me. They tested me, challenged me, forced me to grow, and in the end, they revealed my strength, not my weakness. 6 months after the settlement, I ran into someone who knew Amber. They mentioned she was struggling working a job she did not like in a small town, trying to rebuild her life. Part of me felt bad for her, but another part of me recognized that consequences are necessary. She needed to face what she had done. Maybe that would lead to growth, maybe not. Either way, it was no longer my concern. As for me, I kept moving forward. The startup continued to grow. We successfully launched our platform in 3 hospital systems. The technology I had spent so many long nights building was actually helping doctors make better diagnostic decisions. That felt good, meaningful. I eventually started dating again, taking it slow, being more careful about who I let into my life. I met someone named Julia at a friend's barbecue. She was a teacher, grounded and kind. We took things at a comfortable pace. No rushing, no pressure. Just 2 people getting to know each other honestly. I learned that when someone tries to ruin you, the best revenge is not revenge at all. It is becoming so successful, so at peace, that their actions become irrelevant. Amber tried to destroy me, but in the end she only destroyed herself. And me, I was just getting started. My career was stronger than ever. My relationships were healthier. My understanding of myself was deeper. Sometimes the universe has a way of teaching people their lessons. I just happened to be the catalyst for hers. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had someone try to sabotage you after a breakup or in any situation? How did you handle it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more real stories about overcoming difficult situations. And share this video with someone who might need to hear that they can fight back and win against people who try to tear them down. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it gives you strength if you are going through something similar. Remember, your integrity and resilience are more powerful than anyone's attempts to destroy you. Stay strong, stay true to yourself, and keep moving forward. Until next time, take care.